Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing exactly what this show loves to do. We're taking a concept, Ithavada, that seems familiar, maybe even simple on the surface, and well, we're really going to dig into its precise technical mechanics. When you first hear Ithavada, it often gets translated as just the chosen deity, like which god figure from a big tradition do you like best? But the sources we looked at, they're quite clear that this common view really misses the point. It misses the function. So our mission today is to look beyond that external idea of a god and explore the internal architecture. What the psychological principle actually doing here? How is it meant to organize your inner world?
Yes, exactly. The sources really emphasize that the moment we start looking outside, we kind of lose the thread. The Adevadate is, at its core, an internal thing, an organizing principle. It's not about picking your favorite character from a story. It's about identifying this supreme, luminous ideal, one that can organize and unify your entire consciousness. We're really talking about psycho-spiritual engineering here. It's about the architecture of the mind, much more than just theology. Okay, psycho-spiritual engineering, I like that. Let's unpack this, starting with the words themselves, because that difference you mentioned between a theological pick and a psycho-spiritual mechanism seems like it's right there in the Sanskrit. So what specific nuance do we get when we break down Itha-Devata? Let's start with Ad. What does that tell us? All right, Ita Kanadayanta. This part is absolutely critical. It means chosen, yes, but also desired or beloved. But the key meaning, the one we really need to hold on to, is this idea of intentional selection. The choice isn't passive. It's not something you just inherit or pick casually. It has to be an act of genuine resonance. Resonance with what the sources call your svabhava, your deep individual nature, your inherent temperament.
Okay, intentional selection based on svabhava. That shift from just chosen or inherited feels really significant. But how is this conscious choice different from, say, picking a role model you admire, or even just setting a strong psychological goal for yourself? Do the sources make that distinction clear?
That's a great question. And yes, they do draw a line. It's a point of friction we need to explore. See, a role model or a typical goal is usually external, something out there you strive to become or something you aim to achieve in time. This choice, this ayah, it's different. It's about a radical alignment with the highest principle that reflects your deepest self. And it's a principle specifically intended to facilitate, well, transcendence. So it's not just admiring someone. It's identifying the ideal form of being that resonates so perfectly with your unique nature that it develops this kind of spiritual gravitational pull. It's meant to be a permanent organizing factor for your consciousness, not just a temporary target.
A gravitational pull. Okay, so that's the Iya part, the intense personal chosen identification. What about Devata then? Because that word is almost always translated as deity or god, isn't it?
It is, and that translation, while common, often falls short when we're talking about the intended function. Devata comes from the root viva, and viv means to shine. So technically, a devata is better understood as a luminous principle or a shining archetype, perhaps even an intelligence. If we really respect that root meaning to shine, the whole concept shifts, doesn't it? The Eva Devata becomes the internally recognized luminous principle of perfection or transcendence, the one the practitioner personally identifies with and, crucially, intentionally selects. It sort of bypasses the need for external religious structures, focusing instead purely on internal alignment with an intelligent, self-illuminating ideal.
Right, less an external being, more like a specific structural form designed to focus your consciousness. Okay, so now we know what it is, fundamentally, an intentionally chosen luminous internal principle. Let's move to the really practical question. How does this inner architecture actually work? You use the phrase psycho-spiritual attractor. What does that mean in practice?
Yes, psycho-spiritual attractor. That phrase really gets to the heart of its operational mechanics. It functions as an organizing symbol, and it has a very specific job. Its task is to align the three main engines of our human activity. Our cognition, what we think, what we believe. Our emotion, what we feel, what we desire. And our will, what we actually choose to do, our actions.
Can we drill down on that alignment for a second? Because I suspect for most people, myself included sometimes, those three are often not aligned. What does that misalignment look like?
Oh, absolutely. That misalignment is the chronic state for many, you're right. That internal friction shows up as things like self-sabotage, chronic indecision, feeling pulled in different directions, a sense of being internally divided. For instance, your cognition might tell you, I should really focus on this meaningful long-term project. But then your emotion pipes up, craving immediate comfort or maybe some easy, superficial distraction. And then your will often just caves in to whichever pull is strongest at the moment, usually the emotional one, leading you away from your own recognized goal.
Hmm.
The three parts are constantly fighting each other,
Hmm.
and all your psychic energy just gets wasted in that internal tug of war.
That makes perfect sense. So how does this Devata image, this silent internal principle, actually force those fighting parts to harmonize? It's not like it sends you emails or writes a to-do list.
Right? It's not directive in that way. It resolves the friction by providing a single overarching image of perfection that essentially commands all three. It provides an ideal, a focal point, toward which all thought, all feeling, and all action naturally start to converge. So let's say you've consciously chosen a principle like um, unwavering compassion as your luminous ideal, your Ishta-Devta. Then every decision you face, whether it's cognitive, what should I think about this? Emotional, how should I feel about this? Or volitional, what should I do? Gets filtered through that principle. When some distracting thought or negative impulse comes up, your cognition automatically measures it against the ideal of compassion. Your emotions get checked, or perhaps transformed by that same luminous principle. And your will finds itself naturally channeled toward actions that align with compassion. It becomes like a non-negotiable North Star for your whole internal system.
Wow. That structural function is incredibly powerful when you put it like that. It's like an intense, highly customized internal focus management system. But the sources also suggest there's a higher purpose to this alignment, right? It's not just about being more effective or less conflicted. It's about connection. What does this focused, unified consciousness ultimately link us to?
That's the transcendent aspect. It links us to the very source of consciousness itself. The sources describe the Ishta-Devta as functioning as a kind of resonant image of the higher self, the Atman.
Atman, okay, that's one of those huge foundational concepts. It's easy to just say the word, but it risks losing its weight. Can you unpack that a bit? What exactly is the role of this chosen archetype, this Adadavata, in relating our everyday, limited self to this vast Atman?
It is crucial not to just gloss over eight man. Think of it this way. The infinite consciousness, the eight man, is, well, too vast, too abstract, maybe too formless for our everyday mind, our conditioned ego to grasp directly. It's like trying to stare straight at the sun, right? Without any protection, it just blinds you. You can't take it in. So you need something in between. You need a highly personalized, luminous, mediating form, a kind of bridge, maybe. A bridge that can reflect the qualities of the infinite, like light, intelligence, bliss, but in a form that your limited consciousness can actually process, engage with, and deeply connect to. This chosen intelligent archetype, the Ishta-Devta, performs that absolutely vital function. It mediates. By intensely focusing all your unified attention, your now aligned cognition, emotion, and will onto this perfect chosen principle. The personal self gradually begins to resonate with the qualities of the non-personal self. It starts vibrating at a similar frequency, you could say, leading towards integration.
That makes the whole concept feel incredibly systematic and very pragmatic, actually. It's like a customized tool for transcendence, tailored for the individual user. But, for many listeners, especially those maybe more familiar with modern Western psychology, this idea of an internal, comprehensive, organizing archetype, it probably sounds familiar. It echoes ideas they might have encountered elsewhere.
Oh, absolutely. The parallels are quite striking, and
Mm.
interestingly, our sources explicitly draw some of them. If we look towards, say, Jungian psychology, the function of the Ishta-Devta maps almost perfectly onto the function of what Jung called the self-archetype.
Okay, the Jungian self archetype. That connection is really helpful for giving context, but just for clarity, for anyone maybe not steeped in Jung, how does the self archetype differ from the everyday ego? And why is comparing it to the Edda Devata so illuminating here?
Right. It's a really important distinction to make. The ego, in Jungian terms, is just the center of our conscious personality. It's the I that thinks and acts day to day. But the self-archetype, that's much bigger. It's the overarching center of the total personality, which includes both the conscious and the unconscious parts of us. You could think of it as the intrinsic blueprint for wholeness that resides within us, constantly guiding the person towards integration and completion. So by drawing that parallel, we're highlighting that the Ishta-Devta isn't just some goal for the ego to achieve. No, it functions as the comprehensive organizing principle for the entire human system, conscious and unconscious. Its role is to be the ultimate integrator. And that integrative process is precisely what Jung called individuation, the journey of becoming a complete, psychologically undivided self.
That completely reinforces the internal practical function we were just talking about in the yogic context. It really brings it home. And it brings us right back, full circle actually, to the importance of that initial choice, the elo part. Because if you just stumbled upon a principle or if someone else assigned it to you, it wouldn't have that same intense personal gravitational effect you mentioned, would it?
Exactly right. It wouldn't. The entire mechanism of psychospiritual integration hinges on that intentional alignment, the alignment between the Iya, the chosen luminous quality, and your svabhava, your inherent temperament. If the organizing principle you're trying to focus on feels alien to your deepest nature, the alignment just won't stick. It won't hold. You'd constantly feel like you were fighting yourself, trying to force something that isn't authentically resonant. You have to find the frequency, the archetype that truly resonates for you. That conscious, resonant choice is what ensures the archetype is perfectly personalized for maximum transformative power. It's what allows it to effectively align all three internal forces, cognition, emotion, and will, around an ideal that feels deeply, authentically true to who you are.
So this deep dive really shows that Ishta-Devta is so much more than just a theological label. It's fundamentally a mechanism for self-alignment. It's about the intentional selection of a luminous internal ideal. Using that ideal as an organizing symbol to integrate your personality, unify your consciousness, and act as that mediating bridge towards the higher self.
Precisely. And that leaves us with a rather profound consideration to reflect on, doesn't it? If the Ishta-Devta is this inner archetype of perfection, and it's necessary to align our thinking, feeling, and willing, what does it really mean for our journey towards wholeness that this guiding image must be intentionally selected based on our own unique temperament, our svabhava? Where does true mastery actually begin? Is it just in recognizing the perfection of the ideal itself? Or does it begin, perhaps even more fundamentally, with the courageous self-recognition needed to choose the ideal that is perfectly, uniquely tailored for you? Something for you to maybe ponder long after we finish up here.
That is a truly perfect place to leave it. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. We'll see you next time.